Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. We got a special episode here, little hoops roundtable, probably the first time I've had one on this channel, but considering the circumstances, what we've all been through since early Monday morning with the arrest of Chris Beard, the head coach of the University of Texas, us as all hoops heads, fans of this program, fans of this basketball team, we want to have this conversation, not just regarding Chris Beard, but the state of the program and, just what we as fans are feeling and what we've seen. And also, again, talking hoops, and we will have a good basketball conversation, not just from a staff perspective, but also with the players and everything else that this encompasses. So I have my buddy Austin Taylor on here, who's, the known, I always call him the Big 12 guru on here. He's also, been commentating some high school football games. He was able to call the Duncanville Westfield game a couple weeks ago, a little Dallas versus Houston action. So happy to have Austin on here. And then my good buddy, who we are both going to the fantasy football playoffs in our league, Mr. Colin Kampfe over here. And Colin is, probably the most informed person I know with this basketball team and has just been following this team for years and alum and very passionate about this program. So I think we have some good qualified fans and folks here to have this discussion. As of right now, and from what we know, we will not be discussing any details from the police report. We all know the domestic violence charge, the felony charge that Chris Beard has. But more so speaking from an optics perspective and how the university has to handle this and our own reaction to this, because I'll be honest with you, and Austin, I'm gonna lead with you, man. When we texted, I think it was like 8 a.m. Monday morning. I think, just across the board, text messages are flying. Colin and I are in a couple group chats that was blowing up, and this was a massive sports story. Austin, just your immediate thoughts in the aftermath of everything that's happened with Chris Beard and this crazy situation that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, original thoughts right off the bat are it just sucks. It sucks for everybody involved, from Chris Beard to the victims to the family to the university. I mean, it just sucks. It's a crappy situation that unfortunately, happened to a coach of a program that we follow a lot. I was texting another buddy. It's just like, man, I feel like, coaching arrests have happened before, but this situation in the middle of a season with a game 7 hours, in advance, it feels like uncharted territory. But gut thought, it just stinks. There's no other way around it. It puts Texas in a super difficult spot. It puts his players in a difficult spot. It puts the family, the victim, I mean, everybody. There's no silver lining in this. And I'm usually a glass half full guy, and I keep trying to find, well, what if this and what if that? And I'm really struggling to find any silver lining here. But yeah, it's just something that is extremely unfortunate. And like Rodney Terry said last night, he loves Chris Beard and, loves him like a brother and believes the best in him. But obviously, actions have consequences, and this is just one that's extremely unfortunate for all involved. And I think you can't dance around it. You have to just take it on the chin like that and address it. It's just super crappy, really unfortunate. That's my gut thought.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, when you think about what the year started off as and all the positive momentum that this team had going up till yesterday in the early morning, it's just kind of devastating. When you think about UT as university and the alum and just everything that they had going for kind of the men's basketball program in the last 2 years. And, I think what you really got to feel for is the kids, right? The kids just had bought into, a person who's, leading their team, and ultimately all those kids want to do is win and, bring some pride to the University of Texas. Kids like Tyrese coming over from Iowa State after his first year to follow, a culture, Marcus coming, Christian coming, Arterio and Dylan coming, Ron and the other folks who are going to follow next year, hopefully coming, all that does is kind of just derail everything that we kind of had going on for the men's basketball program. And, yesterday was just a very weird off day, both, throughout from the morning till right at tip, where we barely got an announcement before the game. And then, the Moody Center was very weird last night. So, it was just a very weird, call it 72 hours or so.
We're in unprecedented waters here as a program. We've seen scandals happen at other schools and terrible things happen. But here at Texas, we've had things, not to say that things haven't happened, but this isn't, when we talk about felony, and I was telling a buddy, it's even different from the charge when we talk about versus something like a DUI happening with a coach. Hey, somebody had too much to drink, got caught up, the things that are, but when you hear again, we're not getting into the details of the police report or anything like that, but to Colin's point about culture and what many coaches preach in terms of one of the biggest things, and both of you have been around high level athletics for many, many years, and I'm sure you both have heard, we must eliminate distractions. We must eliminate distractions. Don't put ourselves in bad situations that can impact the team and all of these things. And you saw that in their performance last night, gutting out an overtime win against Rice. They deserve credit for winning that basketball game. I don't give a damn what anybody says about what they did or didn't do on the court. A lot of people wouldn't have been able to perform under those conditions. Who knows, they probably woke up just like many people did to that news. And then it's knowing somebody, I don't know Chris Beard on a personal level. I don't at all. So I can't speak to his character the way a Rodney Terry can, or the way a Brock Cunningham can, or some, like you guys said, a lot of the kids that have come back to this program to not just, of course to help Texas, but they've had buy-in with him. He's had buy-in at many different programs. He was one of the pioneers of the transfer portal. That's for a reason, in terms of connecting with players and developing them. So with all of the things that have occurred, what's the path forward for this program? I know there's been a lot of criticism of Chris Del Conte from media folks, and I kind of want to touch on that a little bit in terms of the school's response. I'm not sure what they want more. I understand he didn't put out a PR stance, the school did. Yes, Rodney Terry did speak to the media yesterday, but things are so much in the air. Where do y'all fall just with how Texas's response to all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough on Rodney Terry, was my gut thought, just because, he was the spokesperson yesterday, it seemed like. I mean, everybody wanted to tune into that press conference, it seemed like. And obviously, I don't know, I'm sure you guys obviously watched it, but it was probably 80% about the Beard situation and 20% about a gritty overtime win. And like you said, say what you want about Rice, not that quality of a team, but the resiliency that those guys showed. I mean, I honestly expected that. I mean, I don't know how 18 to 22-year-old kids can just say, oh, no big deal. Coach is arrested. Let's just go ball out like we always do. I mean, that's just super incredibly hard to expect that. And obviously Rice knew that. The aggressiveness that I saw them play with was, pretty impressive. And I'm not going to lie and say I just lock into every Rice basketball game, but they were working with some quality talent, at least last night. I don't know if they'll win another game or they'll win their conference or what, but last night they were pound for pound in it the entire time. But yeah, to your point, I just think, I don't know. Personally, I would have liked CDC to say something, but again, playing devil's advocate with myself, I don't know really what else you can say when we don't have all the facts. We have the police report and we have the fact that, yes, he was arrested and booked and the whole 9 yards. But other than that, there hasn't been a trial. There hasn't been, anything further than what you and I know, right? I mean, the public knowledge is the public knowledge. And it puts Chris Del Conte in just a really tough situation. I think the Twitter outcry is make a decision, make one way or the other. You're either keeping him or you're firing him. Make it now. And it's just not, it's
And
not that simple, especially from that.
He's been, as of right now, he's been suspended without pay, correct?
Yep.
So they, that's also a big deal there, because how long does he remain, suspended without pay? And I think that's also where we have to navigate the space of being in a college, a university institution versus a private, more corporate America, more professional sports. Like professional sports is another arena of corporate America, but you look at some of the things that have happened, whether it's the NBA, NFL, MLB, or whatever, you can suspend people, put them on leave, do certain things. You're not dealing with students. You're not dealing with reputation from the same stamp. It's a different type of PR that Texas Texas is challenged with, especially considering some of the things that have happened at other Texas schools in the past. I'm not going to go into detail there, but and how we've, been big on the morality aspect of things. And I really feel as though, Colin, maybe this is a question, I don't know if you want to fill it or not. Like, how long is there any room that Texas can ever, bring back a Chris Beard if he is innocent? Or is this done and we're moving on and allowing process to play out? I mean, I don't see it. I personally don't see a path PR wise that you could do it, but let me know where you're thinking there, brother.
Yeah, man, it's one of those conversations that I think is just like bled over from 8 a.m. to now, in every group message, every person that, talks sports with me for the University of Texas, whether it's, my old roommates who played there, to my dad, to you, to, folks who may not have a degree from here. Like, it's one of those things where you've put just egg all over your face. And it's not just yours, right? It's the rest of the folks who really support the athletics program, who, went to school at the University of Texas for an undergrad, for an MBA degree, for whatever, right? That it's also on for folks who, have supported said person, said athletics program. And I think it's really hard for people to delineate the difference between one person and supporting the kids. I think there are people that I saw on Twitter saying it would make me feel bad to go to the game, last night. It's like, well, the kids didn't do anything to make you say, that's a wrap on the season. I don't know if I can support the team. Ultimately, the kids just want to, play basketball and win games for the school. When you look at the broader PR situation, it's maybe, a long answer short at the very end of this is, I don't know how you necessarily bring somebody back when you have all this information that is now public knowledge, kind of regarding a very, very serious situation that, we don't want to jump into that kind of stuff, but I think it would be very hard to kind of bring that person back.
Austin, you can't ever get rid of those images.
Yeah,
images too.
I was gonna say, I mean, you're at a lose-lose either way. Like, obviously it's not important in the grand scheme of things, but like, I look at it this way: when you get rid of Chris Beard, one, from a sports standpoint, you lose a great basketball coach that's proven, and we all know that. Two, you bring him back, and think about the media, what storm would be on Texas, every road game, on social media. I mean, so it's literally a lose-lose no matter what you do. If you fire him, you lose an excellent basketball coach. It really hurts your program most likely in the long run. If you bring him back, it might even be worse than if you were to just straight up let him go. So it's just a lose-lose, man. I know. I mean, my opinion doesn't hold much weight like ours does. Obviously, we're not the ones making those decisions, but like I said to start this video off, I just don't see any silver lining, and that's really the hard thing.
It's difficult. I don't see Texas. there's a lot of people involved, a lot of smart people behind the scenes, the John Biancos, the Cristo Contis, all the way up through, the board and everything. I don't see them assuming that risk. I don't, even if charges are dropped and all of those things. One thing that's very common that we all know, and especially in domestic violence cases, is, when somebody is of value in the relationship or a high earner, things like that, charges often get dropped because lifestyle, things of that sort. So there's always going to be that doubt there. And, if there's ever evidence or anything else that happens again, and all of those things, you put yourself at risk if you're the school. And the other thing is too, is a high profile position. Is you can't treat that like just any other staff member. This is the person that is the face of the university. I will say this, and before we move on to more of the basketball stuff, all of the coaches at Texas are going to be asked about that. I'm sure John Bianco has already prepped all of them. When Steve Sarkisian has to do bowl, press conferences and stuff. I mean, you can put a poll. They're going to get asked. It's going to be a conversation, and people's feet are going to be held to the fire. Not to be held accountable for Chris Beard, but just to echo, where does the school stand on this? Where do other coaches stand on this? Now, moving to the basketball side, assuming Chris Beard is gone, I think the rest of this conversation, we can assume he's gone. If things change, again, this is fresh. We're still a day after this has happened. But assuming he's gone, Rodney Terry is your interim, at least the rest of this season. How do you navigate that mentally, spiritually, like the whole bit with this team? Colin, I think you did a great job of talking about the kids and outlining why they came to Texas. Staff, Chris Beard has guys on this staff that were head coaches that also came to this, that made sacrifices to come here, to be a part of this. Austin, I'll start with you staff-wise. Rodney Terry moving forward, what's your level of confidence in him to lead this team? And, just speak to what you know. I know you're very close to some of those folks, so I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, that was one of my initial thoughts. I was like, well, Rodney Terry's the guy, and if it's not him, they're going to slide Chris Ogden, who's kind of the GM of the team, into a coaching role. I didn't see Chris Ogden on the bench last night. Colin, maybe you did because you were there.
No, he wasn't there. His family was, but he was not in his usual role at kind of the scorer's table.
Yeah, I would imagine that him and Chris Beard were probably laying low, watching the game. I'm guessing. I don't know. We're not going to get into that. But, yeah, I mean, my confidence level was like, okay, I at least feel good about Rodney Terry taking over. Obviously, Lance Blanks last night on the broadcast said that they talked pregame, and, he's coached over 300 games as a head guy. Not only that, I mean, he was on Rick Barnes' bench through TJ Ford, through Kevin Durant, through Avery Bradley, through those guys. So he knows what it means to be a Longhorn, to wear the burnt orange and all that stuff. That makes me feel a lot better than if we were to have, maybe a first-year assistant, younger guy that, is that top assistant right underneath the head coach, but he doesn't know what it means to be a Longhorn, to travel through a Big 12 gauntlet, to be on national TV every Monday, every Saturday, stuff like that. So, I confidence level, I think the players respect him. Obviously, if you watch what Texas put out on Instagram last night, I mean, to all the Tech fans that are like, oh, locker room's lost, don't watch that video, because that looked like a pretty connected group to me. Obviously, I think his quote was, life's going to throw you curveballs. Everybody can hit fastballs, but when the curveballs come and the sliders come, the people that end up on top are the ones that handle them. And that's what I think this group is going to do. And, of course, as a fan, you're like, man, are these guys going to midseason transfer? Are they going to pack it in? Are they going to say, screw this, we're out of here? I don't think so with that group. I really don't. And not even just with Rodney Terry, Bob Donewald, Brandon Chappelle. It's a good staff. Obviously, Coach Beard felt good about that staff. Everybody was on the same page. It's going to be a learning curve, obviously. When you step into any role that you're not currently doing, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. I wish that Rice game was maybe tonight or tomorrow night, but obviously they got through it and they won, and they don't play again for another 4 or 5 days. So I think, these next couple of days will be really big, but I don't know. You might see a little bit of a drop off. Obviously, I think that's just natural, but it's almost like going back to football. It's like if Quinn Ewers got hurt, we kind of land in a good situation with Hudson Card as the backup. It could be way worse, So it's like Chris Beard is out. It could be a lot. There could be way worse options than Rodney Terry, if that makes sense. And that's no disrespect to him. I really do think he's a great X's and O's guy. You can find a ton of his videos online, just breaking down offenses and defenses, and obviously knows what he's doing, and he's well respected. And, as a fan, that's really all that I can ask for.
Colin, where do you fall? Quick thoughts, if you want to add anything to the staff conversation, and then leadership of this team. I think Brock Cunningham was somebody that was very vocal in the post game, and he's been here forever. And, he's a local guy, and we all know what we get with Brock, not just on the court, but off the court. But, we've talked a lot about guard leadership, veteran leadership, Tyrese Hunters of the world, Marcus Carr. If you want to add anything to the staff piece, Colin, and then, let's start talking players.
Yeah, I think maybe just adding, Toss's point on Rodney broadly is that he is really well respected by the players because most of them were recruited by him, or he had a large kind of handle in terms of their recruitment, whether it was from the portal or out of high school. When you look at the leadership of the team, I think there was a quote that, he sat down and talked to 7 of kind of the older guys, if you want to put it in quotes, yesterday. And my assumption is that is, guys like Marcus, obviously guys like Brock, guys like Christian Bishop, where you kind of just have to let them, go out in the court and play basketball after a situation like that. And if you were to look at your own personal situation and then maybe rewind the clock 10 years, however many years it takes you back to college, and say, okay, you're basically in a semi-professional, professional environment, and your boss just got taken away on X, Y, and Z. Are you doing your job that day, or are you just kind of like, where's your mind at? Your eyes are kind of glazed over. Your body's like, what's happening? Kind of have to think about those things for the kids, right? An 18 to 22, 23-year-old, for some of them, is, what's going through your mind. It's very hard to say, go play a basketball game after, I believe people were still taking finals yesterday. So you still got the school aspect, you still got a semi-professional basketball aspect, and you've got, the maturity of an 18 to 23-year-old, which we all know can kind of be all over the place. So I think, what they did was come together and win a basketball game last night. And ultimately for fans, that should, make us very happy and kind of proud of those kids and obviously the staff to come together and get that done.
Colin, I'll come back to you in a second here, but I think with this program and what the kids are going to need, you mentioned something earlier about some folks coming to the or things that have been said, social media, because social media has been buzzing. We know that. And folks talking about, I don't know if I feel comfortable going to basketball and all those type of things. They need y'all more now than ever. Let's be very clear about that. Like, I understand why the Moody was what it was yesterday. And Colin, you were texting me and telling me what it was. And it, a lot of people said it felt like the drum. Well, moving forward, yesterday, yeah, everybody's forgiven. But moving forward, that support, that energy, that's where they have no impact or anything, again, to do with somebody else's personal life of one person. We have to be very, very intentional about this, because going through that and also trying to kind of find your footing as a basketball team, these kids still want support. These kids were on cloud 9. They had a monster win against Gonzaga earlier this year. They got to rank number 2 in the country. They opened up a new arena. That's why it's like, man, it just feels like another, gut punch about, can Texas get out of their own way just with on a broader level, what we always talk about. But they need us, all of us. Like, I'm not shying away from the basketball program. Now, if the leadership of the school makes decisions in regard to the coach that we don't morally agree with, then let's have that conversation and challenge the people that need to be challenged. But that's not the kids, to me. Like, I mean, I think it's very, very important that they have that space. Colin, and I'll get to you, Austin. What are your expectations moving forward? What are your expectations the rest of this month? Because we open conference play on New Year's Eve against OU on the road. So the rest of this month, they only have a few games left. But what are your expectations for them finding themselves, regrouping with the staff? And then what are your expectations? You know, we've been making videos now, the last couple basketball videos, where our confidence factor was going up. And now it's like, damn, we got to throw that away and kind of reset. Where are you at right now, just in terms of what you're expecting from them?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question, right? Is, okay, you've got a Stanford team on Sunday who's pretty middle of the pack, Pac-12. You've got Louisiana, and then you've got Texas A&M Commerce or something like that prior to OU to kick off conference play. If you were to take me back to Saturday or Sunday during the day, I say, okay, well, we're undefeated going into OU, right? And then the Big 12 gauntlet kicks off. You play everybody in their gym, and everybody has to come play in the Moody Center. And, we feel pretty confident about where we are based on what we've done kind of to start the season off. Now you kind of look at it and you're like, was that a one-day shell shock for the kids? Is it, something that's going to completely derail the rest of the season? For me, I think we do have enough senior leadership, enough maturity on the team. And you could kind of see that from a few guys last night. One being Marcus Carr, I think the other big one being Brock, in terms of guys who are just showing leadership on, as well as just kind of while they're on the bench. And I think Timmy Allen did a good job of that as well. Those three guys actually showed probably the best body language than anyone else. I think if you look at kind of the rest of the team, it was kind of a lot of like hunched over shoulders. It was weird effort on kind of the defensive glass. I mean, we out-rebounded Rice by 1, but we didn't out-rebound them until overtime. It was a very weird and kind of like lackadaisical effort on the defensive glass last night. And if that continues in the conference, then we're going to have a ton of problems, because people are going to take a look at that Rice tape and say, okay, they look like they could get back cut to death. They weren't, flying to the glass like they usually would. So, I think you got to take the game yesterday with a little bit of grain of salt in terms of your broader expectations, but, nobody has a crystal ball to say that will continue or that won't continue. I think this team has enough talent, and if, folks really believe that that coaching staff was put together in a mature way and brought over head coaches who know their X's and O's, as well as can, still motivate the kids, right? Motivation is a huge thing in basketball generally, from, college through the NBA. If you don't have any motivation, you're probably not going to get the most out of your players. If we still have that from the coaching staff, I don't know why we can go out and get a top, national 16 seed. So, a 4 seed at the least, kind of with the talent and the coaching staff we have on the roster.
Austin, same question.
Yeah, I wanna believe the best and continue to think that there's a path for a 1 seed or a 2 seed, but I just don't know how in today's day and age you can just assume that. One, even if Chris Beard still was on the sidelines, I think that's an incredibly difficult task. I'm looking just at the schedule here, and I'm just kind of adding up the wins that I think are the wins. And once you get to the Big 12 and then at Tennessee and Knoxville, it's just, there's no gimmies. We do this every year, and you're like, oh, well, at, Kansas State should be an easy W. It's like, no, it's not. They're good, and there's just no easy wins. So I don't know. I'm in agreement with Colin. I think, that 3-4 level is there. I could probably, and I think we all could probably give you a better answer in like 2 or 3 weeks after we see maybe the first couple games of conference, just kind of how that goes, even how, the Stanford game goes. Like Colin said, they're not an impressive physical team. I don't think they shouldn't beat Texas, but you're right, Colin. Like you said, I just watched on TV, but there were sometimes, on defensive rebounds, especially and getting backdoored where you're just like, this is something that has not happened. We've seen some offensive stall outs late in the game. We saw it in Illinois, and we saw it a little bit outside of a couple runs last night. But yeah, to your point, it just didn't look like their heads were fully in the game. And I know that's such a, soccer mom thing to say, like, get your head in the game out there, they're focused, but it was just different. And like I spoke on it earlier, it's hard to not expect that to happen. But yeah, I would say, gun to my head right now, probably a 3 or a 4 seed. Honestly, I really think I could see a couple slip ups on the road. Obviously that game against Tennessee and Knoxville is not going to be easy. You get the draw to who they think you're matched up against, right? In that Big 12
Right.
SEC. Unfortunately, we go on the road to the number 6 team in the country. It is what it is. So that's tough. You would love to play Missouri and Austin, but that's just not the cards this year. So I don't know. Those are probably expectations for me. But then again, real quick, I'll hit on this and then back to you guys. But when Rodney Terry was at Fresno State in 2015, 2016, and 2017, all 3 of those teams he was the head coach of won 20 plus games, so obviously, he can win 20 as a head coach. And I know the jump is so big from assistant coach to head coach, but with his experience, I mean, he seemed lackadaisical and just kind of loose and ready to go. I don't know if lackadaisical is the right word, but he was loose, according to Lance Blanks, saying, hey, I've done this 300 plus times. It's just on the bigger stage,
Right. It's not, he's not uncomfortable being there.
No. And I think there's going to be, a little bit of a difference. It is a guy like Brock Cunningham that's, been with Chris Beard since day one. When they walked into practice today, somebody wasn't there, and that's going to be weird for everybody involved. So it's time to, get your big boy pants on a little bit. And unfortunately, the teams they play are not going to feel bad for them. They're not going to feel sorry for them. You saw Rice last night. I mean, it was they almost saw an opportunity like, hey, these guys are down mentally. We can get them tonight, and it sucks, but that is what it is. When you go on the road to Lloyd Noble, against an Oklahoma team, they're going to try to knock you off just like everybody else is. Texas always has a target on their back. Now, I mean, can you imagine that game in Lubbock in a couple months? I mean, dude, it's going to be scary.
So to that point, this conference, because I kind of want to end here with a real hoops conversation. Part of that is the coaches that are in the Big 12, y'all. I mean, you talking about going to Lubbock. Mark Adams, no joke. Bill Self is the reigning national champion. You got Scott Drew, who won it the year before. Every single place you look at OU, that was somebody who I was high on back when he was at Illinois, Chicago. Like that, there's no, there's no layups. You got Huggy Bear still around. It's going to be a challenge just because I look at player matchups, but I also look at coaching matchups, and I think the Big 12 conference is in that top tier when it comes to a coaching standpoint. X and O's, adjustments, all of those things schematically, that I think why Big 12 teams have had so much postseason success recently in the NCAA tournament as well. So Texas is up against all that. Last year, Kansas won the national championship. They got a 1 seed. Baylor got a 1 seed. They tied, and they won 14 of their 18 games in the Big 12. And before this whole situation, like Colin said, if you go back to Saturday and ask me how I'm feeling, especially after they go and cover against Arkansas Pine Bluff. Okay, I'm like, okay, y'all got to, we getting some positive momentum back after the Illinois loss. That was, hey, we went 2-1 against Creighton, Gonzaga, and Illinois. Okay, cool. And y'all went back, covered a 37.5 spread. I'm impressed by that against a Pine Bluff team that had given some other people some issues. I would have said Texas is trying to get to that 14 win type range. Like they can do it. Like I believe in them. I believe they can go 14-4, 13-5 in the Big 12 and compete for, whether they win the Big 12 regular season or at least number 2. I thought they were, if you're already number 2 in the country, and we look at the advanced analytics, KenPom, all these things, their net rating and all these, like, I'm like, they're there. They can do it, especially health willing. Now it's kind of like falling back to where we were last year, where I could potentially see this, and I hope it doesn't, where they end up in that 4 or 5 range in the conference, and now we're talking about being a 6 seed again. So I hope that the experience of this team can come together. Is there any changes we can expect? And this is to either one of you, whoever wants to take it. Is there any changes we can expect from Coach Terry that are going to be differences throughout the game or maybe over the next few weeks from what Chris Beard likes to do? We know Chris Beard, especially when we get into conference games, is going to be very hands-on defensively, especially setting pace. Are there any changes? Are there any lineup changes that we could see? Is there anything that you guys think could come your way? Anybody that wants to take that one, jump in.
Yeah, I'll go. I don't see a ton of changes. When you look at what the off season is for college basketball and what non-conference games are for college basketball, once you get past, I would assume probably the first 5 games or so, first 4 or 5 games, you probably got the guys that you want to play in certain situations. I think you even saw a little bit of that last night down the stretch in this game, as well as kind of the games against larger opponents. They have the 5 on the floor that they want to close out games. And that's, I think it's Brock, Tyrese, Marcus Carr,
Barry
maybe Sergio Barry Rice. And, Brock's the biggest guy out there, so I can't remember who that 5th guy is off the top of my head, but that's been pretty set the last few games. They already have all their offensive, stuff installed. They've drilled defense since anyone's walked in the door, right? Like they know what they're doing there. I think my thing, and going back to this point that I made on coaching, is motivation and accountability. I think Chris Beard was the guy who held all of them very accountable on the defensive side of the floor. Who is going to do that with this remaining staff? I don't know. And I think that's one of the biggest questions I think I have going forward. So, it didn't happen last night. And, that not only was it not happening just on the defensive side of the ball, but it wasn't happening on the defensive glass. And if those things carry over, I don't know what the snowball effect is for our conference record, because that could get really atrocious really quickly. Because, I think you touched on it a little bit, Steve, but, if you look at the Big 12 right now, besides Oklahoma State, there is not really a bad team kind of in the conference. OU, Porter Moser is a good coach. They have a few good players on that team. Tech, 6-2. They're the 7th team in the Big 12 right now. Mark Adams is still a good coach. They've had some turnover issues. They lost, losing Kevin McCullough is huge. Losing TJ Shannon, which, of course, is huge, right? Showed us at Illinois. Baylor's 7-2. That backcourt is still very good. They still got some big guys up front. West Virginia's 8-2. Nobody thought that they would be good this year. Still got Huggy Bear. Iowa State's 8-2. Yeah, they lost Iowa by a bunch, but they've beaten some good teams this year. Look at TCU, 1 bad loss, still 8-1. K-State 9-1. Kansas 9-1. So ultimately, if you don't do everything that you've done to prepare for the season, I don't know how you kind of get through the gauntlet and you kind of meet expectations. I think it's going to be really, really hard to do that if you let this situation carry on and you play like you did against Rice. It's going to be very, very difficult to do that.
Damn, that got really real when you went through every single team of the Big 12 and their record and personnel. Yeah. I mean, wasn't Mike Miles on TCU like projected to be like Big 12 Player of the Year? Like, there's killers everywhere. Yeah. Every time.
And he's been hurt all non-conference. So these guys are coming, man. The Florida transfer at K-State is is very, very good as well. Obviously Grady Dick up at Kansas, Bill Self, who they're coming, right? It's the same thing at Baylor. Flagler's still there.
And
Scott
those
Drew's
teams
gonna do a good
ramp.
job.
They ramp. Like Bill, like
They get
I
better.
wasn't in love with Kansas early last year, wasn't. And then by the time conference play comes around, they're fine. And so we've seen
beat
that with
team
Baylor
at home last year in the Big 12 too. They won the national championship. So,
Austin,
that's
where are you at, brother?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same thing. I'm going to go back to what we talked about in that Twitter space after I guess, I don't know what game it was after, but it goes to the point, whatever game that was. But I think I remember saying, hey, if Tyrese has a bad game, who's going to step up? Well, I'm looking at the box score. Tyrese has 2 points on 1 of 6 shooting, 0 for 4 from 3. And you say, okay, well, who stepped up? Well, Marcus Carr was a pair of free throws away from a 30 ball. Okay. And then Timmy Allen just went, hero mode and was making his mid-range. And that's how they won the game, right? Other than that, you didn't see anything spectacular. Brock had 6, CV had 6, Terrio had a bucket, Jabari had 11, but Tyrese, for the most part, was a no-show offensively. And if that continues to be the case, man, it's just, you look at this conference, I mean, off nights are going to happen for the best of us, but consistently it can snowball, and I've seen it firsthand, and it's just really scary. When I was at Oklahoma State in 2015, with Brad Underwood, our first year, we lost our first 6 conference games. We had Juwan Evans and a great team, and, it took an act of God, to win. I think we won 8 of our next 9, but, we made the tournament and lost to Michigan. But it was really, really, we were down bad, mid-January, looking at 0-6 in the conference. And it really was because of that. There wasn't a whole lot of offensive continuity, and teams had figured us out. Now, to that point, with Coach Terry stepping in, you can't change your identity right before Christmas. You just can't do that. It's like in football, Texas is not going to change into an air raid between their last game against Baylor and against, Washington in the Alamo Bowl. It's just not going to happen. I know Bijan and Roschon aren't playing, but they're still going to run the ball. Like it is what it is. We're still going to try to attack. We still have to be at our best with ball movement. I see this Texas team offensively kind of stall out a little bit when it's just really 4 guys kind of standing, a couple perimeter passes, and then, all right, Marcus, go get a shot off the dribble, and we hope it looks really good. But if not, you're like, what are we doing? It's kind of remnants of Shaka almost a little bit, and it's only really happened. I've seen it a little bit in the Rice game and a little bit in the Illinois game. But when it gets stagnant, I mean, what have we said in the offseason? The curse of these Chris Beard teams, and Tech fans told us this when we hired him: get ready to play great defense, but don't be shocked if you go 5 minutes without scoring, and we saw it a little bit in March last year against Purdue to an extent. We played well that game, but, Jaden Ivey does what he does, but still, you get into conference play, man, on the road against these teams on a big Monday, and you go 4 or 5 minutes without scoring, that's the game, like, period. So, again, I don't think we're going to change anything, but we got to have guys just hitting on all cylinders. And if not, you have to have them step up, or you're going to look at a lot of losses.
My concern is, and I agree with you both, I think you both nailed it in terms of maintaining what you are and your identity as a basketball team. This offense has been much improved this season. Tyrese Hunter being a big part, their pace being a big part. We've been hit or miss with our shooting, but having Marcus Carr just being off ball makes you a better scoring basketball team. I do think there's things that can be enhanced, or at least where we can get more. Timmy Allen's starting to wake up and give me more in terms of front court scoring. Now, that's probably my best bet in terms of throwing the ball into the post when I need to, but he can only do that against certain type of defenders. He can't do that really against length to me. His mid-range is good, but we still don't have anybody that, we won't. That's just the way the team is built. But I do look at my young boys. Can I get more from Dylan Mitchell? Can I get can I get anything out of Terrio off the bench? Because right now he's not hooping like the guy we saw in terms of the prospects from a scoring perspective. Now, I'm not saying this is like Devin Askew type stuff where the dude's confidence just goes out the roof and he's just going to play defense and not hoop. Y'all know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But with Terrio, it's like, if I can get any, 8 points, 9 points, but it's a spark where you get out in the open floor, you're making a play, you get a dunk or hit a three where we get a little bit more juice. Can I get Serge Jabari Rice to be more aggressive and look for his offense a little bit? I feel like he has a bag, especially, because you guys are talking about stalling. I think the two biggest things are Colin's point about defensive accountability and taking care of the boards and playing with great effort and intensity like we've done consistently, like we did all last year. But who can give me that extra spark offensively? Or else it is going to be, well, did Tyrese Hunter and Marcus Carr play well today or did they not? Because that's probably going to determine the outcome. I need more from my young boys. I know Dylan Mitchell's not a scorer or anything like that, but running the baseline, moving, cut the whole bit. We need more. I think in order to, whether it's hit where we need to be or overachieve. Front court wise, and look, Dylan Dessou, what's good with him? Is his knee just messed? I don't like the look on your face, Colin.
Dylan is trying to act like he's a Miles Turner NBA player right now. I don't know why he needs to be stepping out to jack threes, but my guy, just like get down in the post, at least find an entry and then swing the ball somewhere, because you just acting like this is a 5-out offense is kind of worthless. Like they'll let you shoot. They're not going to let Marcus Carr have an open three, or Tyrese Hunter have an open three, or Serge Jabari Rice have an open three, or Timmy Allen have an open shot. Like, there's a reason you're standing out there with the ball so wide open. It's not to sit there and act like we're in the NBA where no one's playing defense. Like that's been one of the more disappointing things for me this year. And then, I mean, you touched on Arterio, like and I think this is a lot with some guys coming out of high school who are very highly recruited, and the fact that they're playing AAU basketball, right? They're playing AAU basketball, and then they may play in high school division where they're going to go get theirs if they're hyper athletic. He's hyper athletic. You can go see him jump over guys for rebounds who are 6 inches taller than he is. Like, he needs to get settled into, and I think Dylan, and we've touched on this in kind of the last conversations, but Dylan's done a great job of finding his role and doing his role. Arterio has not really found his role right now. He came up the court when we were down 9 points yesterday and jacked a walk-up three without a pass. Like, this is not AAU basketball. That's something that you got to kind of work into somebody like that's head, and then maybe you'll start seeing some of those offensive results. But right now, I think Dylan's kind of there in terms of what he can kind of provide offensively right now. I don't think Arterio's kind of to that point yet.
Where do you fall on any of this, Austin? Or is there anybody else that I haven't mentioned that we can get more out of? I know you're in the we go as Hunter and Carr goes camp, though.
Yeah, I mean, when you said, okay, look at the box score and see if Tyrese and Marcus go off. If they do, Texas probably wins. My immediate thought was, okay, this is just like last year when you looked at the box score to see if Courtney Ramey and Andrew Jones went off. And if they did, Texas probably won. And if not, it was probably ugly, and do I think Tyrese and Marcus are more productive consistently than those two? So far, yes, I do. But, and that's no disrespect to those guys. Obviously, Courtney's doing his thing in Arizona and Andrew's playing professional basketball. But I don't know. It's just, we heard so many good things about Bari, and I like him. I really do. But to Colin's point about Dylan stepping out for three, you want to cover your eyes because you're like, dude, there's a reason there's not a hand in your face. Like, they would live with that all day, and I think we saw some freshman mistakes from Dylan Mitchell last night, especially fouling late. And Lance Blanks talked about it on the broadcast. Instead of just going crazy and ripping your young guy, I really did like what Coach Terry did. He pulled him aside, and you could read his lips. He just said, "We don't need to do that," And I get it. He's a young guy. He wants to make a play. He wants to be on SportsCenter. But in that situation, when you're up by 6, 2 minutes left, let him have his bucket. Right? There's no need to make it worse than it is. The worst thing you can do after a mental lapse is make another mental lapse, right? And I think seeing that was like, okay, this guy gets it, and I'm not saying anything more than that. He's going to lead us to a national title or an Elite Eight or anything, but just that coaching moment, I'm like, okay, this is a veteran coach that knows how to handle a freshman phenom. Dylan Mitchell, basketball has been easy for him, just like it has Arterio Morris his whole life. Now, it's different than the AAU circuit. Like you said, Colin, these guys are going to have to learn their role. And once they fit into their role, I spoke about Dylan Mitchell in that space, the last one we did. I think he really is growing into his role very, very well, especially this young in the season. Let's be real. I don't think the season starts until after Christmas. That's when we start tuning into basketball.
That's
fair. And I think Terrio, it's there. The talent is there. But I don't know, maybe this is just me. I feel like when he gets in, especially when he gets in, he's so energetic. He's so on ball. And then it's always just like 2 dribble pull up. It's like, okay, I'm Arterio Morris. I got to score. And it's like, no, you really don't, though. It's like, make your extra pass and get Brock open. Like, Brock has shot the ball well this year. Make that extra pass and, hit somebody in a high post and then go cut and get out of the way. Like, that's a good job, So you guys know this. Basketball is not just filling up the point sheet. It's just not. So I am optimistic in those two. But my point still stands. I really think, I would love to do this after a loss because we're going to have another loss this year. And I would love to look at the box score with you guys and be like, okay, let's break this down from free throws, right? My Dallas Mavericks are dead last in the NBA in free throws. They've probably lost 6 games because of free throw shooting. That hasn't been an issue consistently, but we saw it in the Illinois game, right?
Texas is not shooting the ball well from the free throw line this year. And they don't get to the line very
exactly.
much.
And that could be an issue, especially in Big 12 play. But it's like you texted me, Steven. I didn't see all the game. Tyrese Hunter had a chance to seal the game with 30 seconds left with a 1-and-1, and he misses, right? Same thing about last night. I think, did Marcus Carr, were we in the double bonus? Didn't he miss 2? Someone missed 2 free throws. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
But I just I like shook my head and was like, this can't happen in February. Like, this cannot happen in Manhattan, Kansas when we're up by 3 with a minute left. Like, championship teams don't miss free throws. Coach K said that, right? So I don't know. I agree, with both of you guys. I would like to see a little bit more out of Terrio offensively, but that doesn't mean points, if that makes sense. Gotcha. Not all offense is points.
So just to wrap up the conversation, again, we appreciate just everybody tuning in. We're also sponsored by Last Stand Hats, laststandhats.com/fanatic. Got a Horns hat there, Christmas gifts, polos. Brock Cunningham he has an NIL deal there. He's got hoodies on the website. So if you want to go support, any myriad of Texas schools that are on there, those of you that are maybe watching from TCU or SMU, some great merch there on laststandhats.com/fanatic. Use promo code Fanatic10 at checkout to get you 10% off at checkout. Great company to support. Closing thoughts. They've definitely got to improve the free throw shooting. 66% on the year. You're now below 30%. I told y'all, the hot shooting that started early, they're going to go to the mean. And we've already seen that. Tyrese Hunter at one point this year was a 50, 40, 90 guy. Now he's like 45, 75, 33. So, we'll have lows. We don't have sharpshooters all over the place. A lot of teams in college basketball don't. But if you're moving the ball efficiently on offense, you get your shots where you want to, you'll get the looks you want, and better looks typically, account for better percentages as well, versus what we've seen in the past with Texas, where we're getting shots off with 4 or 5 seconds left in the shot clock. I applaud these kids. I know we talked about who we talked. It sounds like we might be a little harsh, but that's because we're trying to win at a high standard. We still hold this team to a high standard, regardless of what has happened with the coach, knowing the ability of this team and what this team has already shown. This team, when they're right, when they're playing defensively, when they're handling the boards, they are one of the most difficult teams to deal with in all of college basketball. And when their depth is on point and guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing off the bench, we know what this team is still capable of. How they navigate that is going to be a challenge. How this staff navigates things, how this administration tunes in. Really curious to see. Any final thoughts? I'll start with you, Colin. Anything else you want to add before we close out here?
Yeah, we touched on it maybe in the last two conversations, but just more field goal opportunities you get, the more likely you are to win, right? And I don't know if it was the only time last night that that's happened this year, but Rice took 69 shots and we took 64 shots. That's not a recipe to win basketball games, especially against, and not to trash them, they're a fine basketball team, but against somebody who's significantly less athletic and less talented than you. So, and we kind of touched on it again, take last night with a grain of salt. How the rest of the year is going to be, I don't think so. I really, really hope not. But again, I think everybody should just keep, support the kids. They came here to support, our university, to provide, happiness for our basketball interests, and hopefully folks keep supporting a very talented and good basketball team as well. So that's all.
And we have an arena, Colin, that is worthy.
We have a great arena.
Thank you. Austin, any closing thoughts on your end?
Yeah, just looking at this box, and I know last night it doesn't need to represent more than it was. It was a hard-fought game against really bad circumstances. They got the win, and let's move on. But Jabari Rice going 0 for 5 from 3, Arterio Morris 0 for 2, Brock Cunningham 0 for 1, Tyrese Hunter 0 for 4. Like, that's not good. It's not a recipe. We are a volume shooting team. We go as our shot total goes. And I'm not even saying, we have to shoot at X clip to win. But volume shooting is the name of the game in college basketball. That's how you win, is a lot of points very quickly. So I don't know if I'm gonna say, okay, this team has to shoot 40% from 3 to win. That's not realistic. Obviously, we don't have to do that, but
that's fair.
You start getting into Big 12 play. I mean, we shot 50% from the field. That's really good, but 5 of 22 from 3, that is not good. And then obviously only out rebounding Rice by 1. That can't happen. And I know the circumstances, but they had one big, and he held his own. Obviously, I forgot his name. I think it was Fielder, something like that. Obviously, he played 42 minutes last night. So those guys seem to not get tired. Evie played 40 minutes. Olivari played 40 minutes.
You just brought up something.
I know where you're going, so go for it.
So go for it. What the hell is going on with the cramping?
I don't know, but it's not a recipe for success when Tyrese Hunter only plays 20 minutes a game. It's just not. So, and he misses 15 of them in the locker room. And I love him. He's a great player, but we got to figure out something on the strength and conditioning side, because Marcus Carr played 41 minutes, obviously. But when Tyrese is out for that long, Timmy Allen, 22 minutes, it seems like dating back to even the tournament last year, our guards go out with cramps for like 7 minutes of game time. And you're just like, we can only foam roll so much. Like, eat a banana. I don't know, but I don't know if it's an issue. Like, I know we laugh about it, but like, it's going to suck if this trend continues and we're on the road in Lawrence and it's a tie game and Tyrese checks out for 7 minutes because he's getting treatment. It's like, why isn't the other team's guards doing this? They're playing the same game, right? I don't know. I'm clueless. So if you guys have any other explanations, I am all ears.
Colin, do you have any take there?
I have no take on the Tyrese Hunter cramping thing. It seems to happen every single game, and I don't know, hook him up to an IV before the game and like get him hydrated or something, because you can't have him missing 8 to 12 minutes because he has to go back in the locker room to, I assume, get an IV and like Theragunned out so he can play, critical minutes in the second half of a basketball game. That just can't happen. And I don't know, and I don't know what the answer is to that, but again, I have no answer to that. It's a weird, phenomenon right now.
They said on the broadcast last night, he's back in the locker room hooked up to an IV, and I was just like, it's 70 degrees in the Moody Center. I don't understand. But anyway, maybe that's me being harsh. Maybe Iowa State fans who are, for whatever reason, watching this can maybe give us some intel if this has been the trend last year. But when your starting guard is only giving you 60, 70% of what he probably wants to give you, it hurts the team. And I know it's not his fault. He's not doing it on purpose. But it is frustrating to wonder, hey, well, where's our guard in crunch time? Oh, he's over there, hooked up to an IV. So,
yeah, not only that, is that the reason he's going 0 for 4 from 3 when probably 50% of those shots were wide open? Like, he had open shots last night, and they didn't look pretty at all. Like, side of the rim, it was not good.
No Matthew Meyer Texas performance last night for sure.
We'll have there's some other Longhorn killers on the schedule. We'll get to that for another video.
Can't wait.
Yeah, but Matthew Meyer is definitely on the list. Guys, thank y'all so much for joining, adding your thoughts. I know it's a difficult conversation, and please, as you guys comment on the video, please be respectful in the comments. This is a very serious matter. There's a lot of people who are very triggered, and people that are victims and have gone through this. And we have to, when there's triggering things out there like that, we have to be respectful and mindful. Twitter is one thing. I can't police Twitter. I can't police rumors and speculation and things like that. But on my channel, and in the comment section, as we talk about this situation, please be mindful of that at all times. Don't just act like this is not real people, real life. And then, y'all know how y'all can act sometimes. So I'm going to leave it at that. Austin, thank you so much. I will have y'all's contact information. Make sure you go follow these folks on Twitter. They've been helping me out with Twitter Spaces after basketball games when we can. And so we'll keep the content coming. I love these basketball roundtables. I love talking hoops with y'all, and really appreciate having y'all on the channel so very much. Guys, remember, no matter what, horns always up.
Welcome.